Hey guys, welcome back to CALLOUS Draft League Week 1 action. Lots more of this tournament to go. And before we begin with Volta and SPFunk, and you can find their draft in the description as well as a link to my Discord server, I have a tragic announcement. And that is that this is going to be the only / final match. I already did one more, so the final match of Week 1. And that is because the other match that I intended to cover, Cabbage and Free Day, as you may have seen, I did that draft, tragically did not end up getting played. That is going to end in an activity win, so there's no games to narrate, unfortunately. Not going to delete the video. I mean, I already did it, so might as well leave it there and let you guys enjoy it if you like listening to drafts. But it never played out, so that stinks. So we'll wrap up Week 1 with this match, which obviously did play out, and then we'll move on to Week 2, which has both team draft, which I am super excited to cover, and individual draft that you guys are used to. But let's leave Week 2 for Week 2. Let's stick with this match in Week 1 between Volta on the orange team and SPFunk on the red team. Like I said, a link to their draft, how we got here, is in the description. It's a best of 3. Here we go. Volta's got a Cloyster against a Smeargle. Probably the Smeargle's faster. It's usually max speed, which is just a smidge faster than Cloyster. And it did get a Spore off, but it wasn't on the intended Cloyster. It was on a Dusclops instead. And he's going to go for Transform here. More than meets the eye. And he's going to boom into a sub, which is not perfect, but they both do get spikes down, and here's the Jinx follow-up trying to put pressure on Celebi. Leech Seed does get blocked by sub there, so it's a good turn for Funk, and he's going to Calm Mind up and try to keep the sub up. Instead, Celebi is also going to substitute up, but that will obviously be broken easily by the Stab Ice Beam. BP is going to get us Heracross. Hopefully for his sake, Jinx doesn't have Psychic, which it doesn't seem to. Ice Beam is still going to do a ton here. And we know that it's not going to have a Salic Berry because we've already seen the leftovers, so no reversal shenanigans here. Heracross needs to get out of the way. Substitute reestablished. Ice Beam, despite the resist, going to do 38% because Cloyster's special defense really is that damn bad. And for the second time this game, it's going to be a boom into a sub. Jinx is now defenseless, though it can probably, wow, I'm surprised, probably sub up on Milo, but he sees it differently. He's going to Calm Mind again, get knocked into Salic range, which is weird for an already really fast poke. I would think it would be Lychee Berry. But yeah, going to get its best Ice Beam off on the way out, 27%, fair enough. Leaves us in a 5-4 situation with Volta in the lead. He is going to get Stun Sport and Full Parrot here. Of note, though, Marvel Scale now active, so Milo in a Sandless game, very bulky now on the defensive side. And that Ice Beam, not much better. 5% doesn't even negate lefties. Refresh comes down, no more para. They exchange Ice Beams again. Milo obviously getting the better end, doing nearly 3 times the damage. Now switching it over to Surf, and Swampert begins to curse up, so +1 EQs will put some amount of pressure, but Milo still generally wins the matchup. Celebi comes in. It's good there that he Ice Beamed again rather than EQ'd, so that was a good prediction for Funk. But he gets out of the way, staring down Celebi, and it does turn out to just be Leech Seed here. Into Dragonite that was unrevealed before. Breloom comes in anticipating a switch, and he is incorrect. And that's going to allow Volta to get a substitute up and a Psychic, so he loses Breloom for nothing there, and the Celebi is still behind a sub. So this game was relatively close, but that was a big swing in Volta's favor. He's going to Leech Seed up the D-Knight, who's going to try to Dragon Dance up. Double Edge pops the sub, takes a little bit of recoil. But BP is going to get my Lotic in, which should neutralize it anyway. Never mind the fact that Leech Seed is going, so Dragonite will almost certainly have to retreat here. And as I say that, he does not retreat. He stays in, double edges, gets sniped by Ice Beam, leaves Milo somewhat low here. But Medicham doesn't go for the Brick Break kill. Instead, fishes for a flinch that does not come with Rock Slide. Endure, however, and Volta does take the bait, so Medicham now, no attack boosts, but faster than everything presumably, 1 HP reversal, a real threat. Is this the game? Is Medi just going to sweep it up for Funk? Nope, we've got a priority move in the form of Linoon. any priority move would do, anything with quick attack, but there you go. Lanoon did something. Belly drum happens, and then what always happens when Lanoon clicks belly drum also happens, which is that it instantly dies, in this case to an earthquake. However, pending a critical hit right there, I believe this is game over. I don't see how a curse pert is going to get through. I believe the answer is it isn't, and even if it were to beat the Celebi, which isn't looking very likely in this moment, there is still the Dusclops in the back and the Leech Seed active, so I don't see it happening. Might as well play it out, but I believe game one about to go the way of Volta. Just going to keep sub-stalling. Swampert does have rest to make it vaguely interesting, but what's to stop Celebi from firing off Psychics now? Hint, the answer is nothing. And therefore the Swampert is going to drop in a couple turns. Certainly his prerogative to play it out, but I don't see any way out of this game. All he has to do is click Psychic. Confident he can do it. And indeed, no misclick, it is Psychic. Swampert drops, both players show teams, which is just a formality in this case to make sure the teams are in fact legal, which they are. And like that, we are off to game two with Volta having the 1-game advantage. And here is game two, but let's go ahead and switch those sides for continuity, putting Volta again on the bottom and Funk on the top. T-Tar lead, Blaziken lead, advantage Blaziken, can just Sky Uppercut him, which would be an easy one-hit KO from that spot, but knowing there would be a likely switch, he goes for the turn 1 sub instead, but not before Arcanine comes in and gets an Intimidate off, which could definitely matter here. For example, this Focus Punch still does a ton with Stab, but it does less than it would have because of Intimidate, and the Arcanine definitely appreciates it. In comes Gengar, hoping it is another fighting attack. It's not. It's Substitute again. Focus Punch won't be the move, but something like Fire Blast would hurt a lot. Hidden Power, I guess Ghost? Kind of weird, but alright. Chunk Scar for 44% then. And in comes Venusaur switching into an Ice Punch. He Ice Punched into the Blaziken, so that was a good prediction for Funk. That Venusaur hadn't even been revealed, so good instincts there to make that play. Now goes for Fire Punch into the Venusaur, catches Slowbro, resisted of course, and Psychic there would have killed the guard, but instead it basically bounces off Regice with its very, very high base special defense. T-Wave going to hit something there. No Natural Curemon in sight just yet for Volta. And the Paralysis victim is going to be Registeel. Gets a Toxic off anyway, but blanks into a Steel type. And Spikes come down for the newly in the battle Fortress. And that is Spike's Lair number 2 coming down for Funk. No Spinner shown yet for Volta either, but it does have Blaziken, and it does have Flamethrower, and there is the kill. 4 he goes down. But so does Blaziken with Thunderbolt, leaving us in a 5-5 with 1 unrevealed for each guy. Aerodactyl comes in to threaten the Gengar. There was no Rock Resist in sight, so understandably, he's going to go for Rock Slide, but the last Pokemon is in fact a Rock Resist. Flygon coming in for Funk, catching the newly revealed last poke for Volta, Armaldo, with a Toxic before getting out of there. Hidden Power, not clear what it is, but even through Intimidate, that's going to get him. That might just be HP Rock, but Arcanine falls, Rock Slide misses. That's an unlucky break that would have probably killed the Armaldo with the weakness, and the punishment is huge in a 4x weak 65% brick break. Pretty big deal there for Volta. Leaves us in a 4-4. A lot of injured Mons on Volta's side, but he does get a little bit of health back with that Giga Drain as he takes out the T-Tar and regains the lead. Now 4-3. Gengar comes in. It's got both Ice and Fire Punch. Venusaur loves neither, and down it goes. Leaves us in a 3-3 as Aerodactyl reappears. Goes for Hidden Power, 45%. Flygon should be safe at 52, but here comes Zero anyway. And Earthquake there, a blatant over-prediction. Aerodactyl looking very threatening for Funk here. Has no switch in that resists Hidden Power flying here. He's got only Regice and Gengar as options. Flygon bites it, and in comes Regice. Volta probably isn't going to stay in here. And indeed, he just switches to his Regi counterpart in the Registeel. Leaves us in a 3-2 situation, Volta being the 3, and he's up a game, so Funk is going to have to find a way out of this, and that's going to be very difficult with the Aerodactyl on the other side, or it will be a 2-0 victory for Volta. Going to go for S-Talk, and he's going to find Toxic, which is obviously not going to do the trick against Gengar. Fire Punch there, only 26%, demonstrating the bulk of Registeel, despite the fact that it is weak to the Fire Punch. Here comes another, this one only 24%. However, the issue, seemingly, is that the Registeel can't touch the Gengar at all. We do not know the full set. We've seen Toxic, Rest, and Talk. There we go. Final move revealed, Seismic Toss, now confirmed. It cannot touch the Gengar. However, it might be able to stall out the Gengar. That critical hit, however, could change the math. Maybe he can get him here with a good damage roll or another crit, but a average damage roll, so it seems. 25%, that's about what they've been doing, 24, 25, somewhere in that vicinity. There's 27, but he would have needed 29 in that moment, and I'm not clear if that is even on the table, but it seems like he needs multiple crits, or this thing can just sit there and stall him out. This must be a not super offensive guard, must be EV'd in a defensive way, and it's obviously a very bulky, specifically specially bulky, Registeel. Normally this would not be a thing. If this guard was remotely offensive, it could punch through here, but with the exact sets and EVs that these guys seemingly have, and I'll check after the game since they have to show team, but with the way this is playing out, somehow the Gengar is not able, despite Fire Punch, to punch through the Registeel here. Leaves us, like I said, still at 2-3, but no progress was made, and a lot of Fire Punch PP got wasted. Let me see what he's got left. 14, in theory, quite a few of them, but as we've established, multiple crits. One crit won't even be enough. Multiple crits in a short window are going to be necessary to break through here. And the math dictates that that isn't very likely, that Volta probably, in fact, can stall him out here. And there we go. There's a crit for 51%. Just not enough. And he wakes up and rests, and the crit is for naught. And now he's going to switch it over to Thunderbolt. That's not going to get him anywhere either because he can't even para. There's not even an opportunity. Thunderbolts, then it wakes up. Then he gets a rest off. There's not even a window of opportunity to find a lucky para, full para. But he Thunderbolts again anyway. And yeah, he's not even going to give himself a chance to be cheesed. Even though he was relatively safe there at 45%, he's going to rest anyway. And it's the same problem here. The Ice Punches, the damages, whatever, but the real goal is to freeze him. But because of the way that the moves are ordered, you don't have a chance to freeze him. He'll just rest. Will-O-Wisp there? Nope, not on a Sleeping Mon. And Seismic Toss, gonna blank, but the goal here from Volta's end is to PP stall him out, and it looks like he's gonna be successful at that. Checking on Rest PP, still got 9 of them. That's quite a few. And it's difficult for Funk to switch into Regice because he really doesn't want to get hit with Toxic, which can happen whether or not the Registeel is awake. So kind of has to tap dance around that. He gets another crit there, but it's Ice Punch this time rather than Fire Punch, so doesn't really matter. Is Funk really going for the PP game here? I don't think he can win this PP stall because of Rest, but maybe he can. Or maybe at some point he does incorporate some Regice switches. But this is going absolutely nowhere if this is going to be the game plan for Funk. Gonna try to freeze him, and Volta is giving him a couple of windows to do so. And there you go, there's a freeze. But what's the plan now? Because if you Fire Punch him, which is the only move that does damage, you instantly thaw him out because of the way the freeze works. Gonna try to Thunderbolt him down, which would be a long road at 16% of whack, and indeed comes nowhere close as he thaws very quickly, and we are back to where we were. He tries one more time to refreeze him, doesn't happen, gets a rest off. Here we are again. And this whole time, even though Gengar has lefties, because this is a game that does have sand, brought by Funk ironically enough, because the Gengar would have healed up to a hundo a million times over if it weren't a sandless game. It's been sitting here for so long, the thing would have healed up through lefties a bazillion times over, but it just, yeah. He's just sitting here making no progress at all, not gaining any ground, not getting any health back, not doing any meaningful damage. And this one, I guess, not the most exciting spectator experience. I'm trying to keep it engaging for you, but we've been in this Gengar Registeel loop for dozens upon dozens of turns at this point, and it just isn't going anywhere. We can check on PP once again. I mean, my overall conclusion that because of rest, Registeel will inevitably, eventually win this PP war is still what I think will happen. And they have a little bit of chit-chat in the battle chat a few turns back about should they play this out or not. They agree to play on. So here we are. But obviously, when he gets a little bit into the danger zone, he was there in a position where he could have been crit with a Fire Punch and killed. He's just going to rest and make that not a thing. So the PP stall continues. And like I said, one way to not use PP if you're in Funk's seat is to incorporate some Regi switches. But every time he does that, he risks getting hit with a Toxic, whether it is from an Awake or a Sleeping Registeel. Now granted, to conserve PP and make sure that he wins the PP stall, Registeel has not been using Sleep Talk for a lot of turns, so there has been a window to get Regice in multiple times, and if that causes Volta to start using Sleep Talks, then that's probably good too, because it helps Gengar not get crushed in the PP war, which is currently what's happening. Kills off an S-Toss there. Thunderbolt Fishing Para, maybe? Nope. Volta back to sleep. Back to square one. Gotta be getting a little bit lower. Still a couple rests, 3 of them, but gonna have to be a little pickier with it going forward. And Gengar does have 10 Fire Punches, so maybe, just maybe, he really can stall him out of rests, even though it's taking eternity. Like I said, Volta's probably going to have to be a little less trigger happy with the rests. Starting out with Will-O-Wisp I do think is right, because it puts a little bit of a clock on him. Got to be really careful here. Doesn't want to let Aerodactyl switch in for free, for example. Not that Volta would make that move, because why would you risk by far your best win condition? But you don't want to click mindlessly here if you're Funk. You do want to be conscientious of your move choices here. Fire Punch PP in particular, you're going to want to keep. Try to finish off the Registeel, even if a crit is necessary. And likewise, Thunderbolt PP, gonna be your best friend if the Aerodactyl misses Rock Slide, or if you're trying to kill the Slowbro. So he's only got 2 rests left. Lots of PP and all the other moves, but the ability to heal off all this damage, get rid of the Will-O-Wisp, all that is finally starting to come to an end as we push 100 plus turns seemingly where we're going in this particular game that has largely been these 2 Pokemon staring each other down for the vast majority of the battle at this point. Gonna start killing some Sleep Talks while he's awake. And here's S-Toss. We'll see how conservative he wants to be. He does only have 2 rests left. I would probably push it 1 more turn. He's going to rest. Fair enough. If he had pushed it, he probably would have died to a Fire Punch. This is why you shouldn't listen to me. Fire Punch again. Got 6 of them left, and there's only 1 rest after this. Maybe, just maybe, Gengar will finally stall him out. I think Registeel was supposed to win this, but I think he was a little too eager to rest earlier on and was not maximizing those turns. I think he could have attacked 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 times sometimes, and then rested rather than at the first sign of trouble, rest immediately. But we are now in a position. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, there are no more rests, and there's still 4 Fire Punches. So somehow, some way, Gengar is going to come out on top in this 1v1, which feels like it's not supposed to work that way. But the tragic part here is after all of this grind and all of this effort and all of this playing it out from Funk, I think it's probably all going to be for naught, because ultimately he will still lose to the Aerodactyl unless Rock Slide is to miss. That's basically the way out. Gonna fodder off the bro. I would have just let the Registeel go, but here's Arrow. Whole game set up for this, playing for a miss. Gonna need it right here, or it is all for nothing. And as it turns out, that full-on grind that they put each other through and that I just put you through is all for nothing because the Aerodactyl delivers when it really counts. It's tough. I mean, they both were in a weird position. I mean, Volta couldn't really switch there. If he had switched the Slowbro or the Aerodactyl into the Gengar, he would have done so at tremendous risk, so he was kind of obligated to stay in there. And then Funk, having only 2 Pokemon, the Gengar and the Regice, didn't exactly have a lot of options either. Could Funk have dabbled in a couple of Regice switches? Sure, maybe, but with the way that Volta was playing when he was so eager to get the rests off and wasn't optimizing it and wasn't killing a couple of PP each time before resting, he somehow allowed the Gengar to win the PP war, which isn't normally what would happen there. And then, I mean, I guess it's a blessing in disguise because it kind of sped it up and kind of got us to the inevitable. It was always going to come down with what Mons were left to whether or not the Aerodactyl can connect with the damn Rock Slide. And it does indeed hit 2 in a row, which is all he needed. Going to be the game and the match. It is a 2-0 victory for Volta over SPFunkM. And that's it. Like I said, was planning on having one more match to narrate for you guys, but it ended up not happening, unfortunately. But I'm going to be narrating stuff in Week 2. Team Draft is a really funky format that I can't wait to get into with you guys. And then obviously I'll be narrating the games as well. Like I said, link in the description to my Discord server if you want to see this stuff as it happens. Also a link to the draft if you want to go back and check that out. And finally, may I request that you hit that like button and consider subscribing to the CALLOUS Narrates YouTube channel. Always appreciated. Thank you guys as always for watching. I will see you in the next video.